This might shock and horrify you, but this is the story of an artist turned AI user. And today I want to paint you a picture while you watch me draw this of an average artist, one just like you that had amazing art dreams. And this is a warning message because the AI community won't tell you this, but this is what will happen to you too. So the artist in question that we're going to discuss today, I don't want to blow them up or directly name them, so let's codename them as Alex. And Alex was an artist just like you who thought that this would be exactly what they needed to do. They've heard everything, they've read everything, the writing was on the wall apparently, and they thought I had to use AI in order to do anything, in order to accomplish my dreams, get into my industry, produce what I wanted to, so on and so forth. And throughout this video, I want to just relate to you what some of the disastrous, unexpected, negative impacts of that. And that all starts with this. You see, one of the things that Alex told me was that what they used to experience was people interested in what they were doing, how they were doing it. And when they were drawing, people would be impressed and say like, wow, this is cool. And what program are you using? Or what are your brushes like? Or they used to also ask them questions like, wow, what was your inspiration for this? And how did you come up with that? But then that stopped. And instead, Alex started to notice a lot of new questions. More specifically, they started to be asked things like, is that AI? And so what Alex was experiencing is what we kind of low-key notice a lot, which is there's this AI witch hunt happening all the time. And Alex thought that they were above that. They thought that they were really sly and that nobody would ever notice. And they thought that, well, as long as they're integrating into its process as a tool, that nobody would ever pick up on it. But the unfortunate reality is that this happens all the time. There are loads of AI users who think that they're way too clever, they're way too sly, they're way too good, and nobody's ever going to pick up on it. But because of everything else we're going to go over in this video, that never happens. People always notice it. And Alex started to feel really discouraged about that fact when they started to notice that every single question that they got was not about their artwork. It was about what they were doing with AI and how other people could do it too. And so for you as an artist, one of the hidden costs of you using AI is that people are going to shift the dialogue. And that, as they learned, was not actually to show that people or an audience was interested in it. It was to call them out, and it was to reduce their labor. And Alex did not take well to that one, and then it got worse. Moving on, the next issue that reared its ugly head was that Alex had a lot of big professional goals, and they really wanted to get into some type of professional landscape. We discussed them getting into concept art, discussed them getting into illustration, maybe even working with private clients, a thing that I know a thing or two about. And what they started to notice though, was that AI was promised to be this open door, that it was going to just allow them to insert themselves into all these big professional opportunities that they always wanted. And what they found, however, was that they were horrified and dismayed at the fact that that's not happening. And it wasn't happening for anybody else either. Because as they looked around, every single thing that they applied for, they were instantaneously denied. And then this also kind of brings up the fact that, again, they thought that art directors and recruiters would never notice the fact that they used AI. Alex also thought that using AI would actually help them in their process because they had heard that they were using AI in the game industry. They had heard that car companies and other illustration firms were already using AI. So why not? It might as well embrace it, right? And just use it as a tool. But that's not what happened. You see, what actually happened for Alex here was that they were straight up not even considered. And the reason why is because it didn't mask the skills that they were deficient in. It did not improve their opportunities. And that's just because when you use AI and you want to be a professional, those two things clash. The honest reality here is that any artist using AI instantaneously loses respect, especially if you're trying to get into art industries, because of the fact that You're trying to show that you can accomplish things that are not able to be outsourced by an algorithm. They are not in set patterns. They are not able to be replicated ad nauseum. There's no formula for art. Telling you this, by the way, as somebody who's been an art education professional for the last 15 plus years, and then also too been freelancing for 10 plus years. And listen, I've even heard so many firsthand accounts from art directors literally telling everybody, if you use AI, we will not consider you. If you use AI, that's actually the easiest way to make sure that we will never even look at you. I even saw the other day that there is a Japanese company forcing artists to draw in front of them to prove that they don't use AI. But Alex didn't listen to that warning, and the writing was on the wall. And they destroyed all of their professional opportunities by losing respect, by just using AI into their process. And they thought nobody would notice, but obviously that didn't turn out. And so, my friend, for you, are you really willing to give up and sacrifice everything that you want to work hard for? Because those professional opportunities that you think are going to come from using AI, or if you think somehow there's going to be job postings for AI artists outside of AI companies, it won't, and it doesn't. Next, here's the other conundrum. Around this time, Alex learned that, well, if they can't get professional opportunities because they haven't grown and invested into themselves as much as they were investing into AI, then they thought, well, hey, I might as well go ahead and try and get some private clients. Maybe they won't know either. But that was not the case. So what they tried to do is put themselves out there online. And they figured, well, hey, I can output a lot more than a lot of other artists. And so they used all the typical platforms because they wanted to get some quick results and get some quick money. And what they started to notice, though, was that all AI users are doomed and damned to cheap pricing. And so what they found out the hard way, unfortunately, was that they could not compete with real artists who could, from start to finish, actually create anything themselves. And what they found themselves instead doing was running the race not against actual artists, but running the race against other AI users also trying to do the same thing that Alex was doing. They thought that they were real clever on this one. But unfortunately, that was not the case. And you can see this in the landscape of any freelancing market, okay? Listen, like you go ahead and you sit yourself down and check out Fiverr. You go ahead and you check out Artists and Clients. You go ahead and you check out even Artistry. There are AI users on all those platforms, galore. And they are not running the race of trying to get better. They're not running the race of you trying to actually improve your art and improve your pricing. No, they're just trying to get as much as possible for as cheap as possible. And what they learned is that they're only succeeding on one of those fronts. And Alex could only get cheap artwork, stuff that was $20 and less. And the reason why is because people will not invest into your artwork when you don't invest into your artwork. I tried to warn them about this, but they did not want to listen to it. They thought that they had it all figured out, and they were very confused because they had heard from all of these so-called AI art communities that you could make loads of money off of this, but it wasn't happening for them. And then this is the sad reality. The only AI art users that are making money from their AI art are the ones that are making courses, classes, and Patreons about how to make AI art. And they're not even good with it. And they're not even doing anything with it. Because of the fact that what was once a novel market has now exploded and expanded to the point where just anybody could do it. And where there is lack of a novelty, where there's no scarcity, there's not a lot of value to be made. There are no opportunities for them. And this is when Alex started to get really, really disillusioned here. And they realized that nobody cares about anything that anybody using AI art does. All they care about is how to make money from it and how to produce a quick result. And boom, that backfired right into their face, unfortunately. And now if you thought that we were on a downward spiral, buckle up, because we're not there yet. It gets worse. But one thing that will definitely not make you worse, my friend, is if you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe, and you'll get some helpful content like this to help you battle these negative influences and these negative thoughts like my friend Alex was trying to go through. And hey, look, if you like this, please go ahead and share this with another artist, and please hit that hype button so that we get this story out to more artists just like you, struggling with the same exact concerns, because I don't want you to end up like Alex. I want you to end up like the way that you deserve to. Because unfortunately for Alex, this happened next. Slipping down that dark path now, we're going to continue into this. It was around this time, and Alex had made many things with AI, more than they ever possibly could. And they started to look at everything in a different light. And where they used to be impressed, and they used to think that it was something that they could persist in, that they could use to bring their visions to life, or they could use within their process, they started to have this dark thought, and they said, it's not mine. I don't feel that I made that. And it was around this time too that Alex started to take a look at their work from earlier years, from before AI emerged, from before they started to integrate it into the process. And they started to notice something. There was a massive gap. And so this is when imposter syndrome started to develop in them. And they realized that they couldn't put their name to anything. They couldn't say that anything that they made was special. And this is especially because they started to notice how their artwork looked versus other users of AI art. And they started to notice that, well, I had something that was kind of cool and special here. But now I'm starting to have all my stuff look like everybody else's. And they were told the same thing that you've heard too. Oh, it can copy any art style. Oh, it can copy any artist. Or, oh, you can train it off of your own and it's your own. But that doesn't happen because no model is set up in order to actually make anybody have any type of individuality. All that did was just give them raging imposter syndrome. And they started to question everything. They started to feel terrible about it. And then they started to, again, start to feel this draw, this reconnection with their actual art. And they said, this stuff, I actually, even though this isn't as good as what I could output through AI, this is mine. I could do that. And even though there's stuff here that I couldn't do, they said, at least it's mine. Now I'm a fraud. And the hard part that AI users don't realize like this until it's way too late is that you earned that imposter syndrome. You cosplayed as an artist. You cosplayed as somebody better than what you are. And that veil, it gets lifted or it gets torn off. And I don't want that to happen to you too, because that did not help their self-esteem. And it won't help yours either. Now, as Alex started to continuously try out new things, and they would hear that there's an update to this, or there's a new feature in that, or, oh, you got to try this out. Alex kept up with all of that. They really did. And one of the things that they started to unfortunately notice, though, was that AI was getting better, but they weren't. And so I think that this kind of rolls itself into a massive issue here with the AI community towards art, which is that they think that somehow they can bridge the gap between what they're actually able to do and what AI can do for them. Or they think somehow that they can masquerade and cosplay over what actually can happen. And it was around this time that Alex had an illumination. They realized this. They weren't making themselves better. They weren't improving their life. They weren't helping make anything substantial that they could actually own and say, I made that. Instead, what they were just doing was they were just making the machine better. Every single time that they were trying out something new, that they were training a brand new model that was based on their own stuff and based on somebody else's, which, by the way, just to put this out there, is a load of horse crap. There's no private model that's just yours. You're always stealing from millions of other artists. And they also just realized this. They were becoming part of the problem. See, they thought that they would just be able to use AI and then wean themselves off of it. But it became an addiction. And it became something that was an all-consuming process for them that they could not release themselves from. And they were masquerading as okay, and masquerading because of the fact that they got a little bit more attention on some certain platforms for some artworks that they were doing. And we'll talk about how that went in a minute too. But they noticed that they were not being true to themselves. And they realized that they were just perpetuating their own issues because they didn't like AI, but they felt that they had to use it. And this is just like if you go to AA and then you go home and you're a day drinker. Like, you can be an alcoholic without ever stepping foot into a bar. And Alex was starting to realize around this time that they were just exacerbating their own insecurities, and that developed into something terrible we'll talk about too. But one of the things that I tried to warn them about, and I noticed, I picked up on pretty early, was that they had these really self-aggrandized versions of themselves and what they would be able to do. And none of that was coming true, because in stealing from other people in order to get to your own means and ends, that's not sustainable. That's not something that you want to do. That's something that I think that you're above doing. And just to be honest, there's no ethical version of this that exists. And I don't think there's ever going to be. Next, it was around this time that Alex started to experience something that all creatives inevitably do, which is they encountered a little bit of a block. And you know what I'm talking about because you probably experienced a little bit of art block too, haven't you? You've surrendered yourself to this creative block phenomenon, right? You can't think of any ideas. Your imagination just isn't working for you. And one of the things that they started to notice was that, they thought that they had really great ideas. They thought that it was the bomb. They thought that it would change the world. They thought that it would get them lots of recognition. But that didn't happen. Because one of the things that Alex told me around this time was that they had just surrendered their imagination to AI. They thought that they would create something really powerful, really unique, really cool. They could finally bring all of their amazing concepts to life. But in reality, that wasn't the case. See, instead of actually creating anything novel or anything that anybody actually thought would be cool, was that they were just regurgitating concepts, ideas, iterations that other people had already done. And every single time they made something, curiously, they also noticed that other people would call them out. Oh, hey, it's just like this. Oh, hey, this character's kind of like that. And then this other curious phenomenon started to happen. The more that they used AI to delude themselves into thinking that they could produce what was in their head, the more they realized all of the hard limitations of it. And they would look at their generations and say, I mean, it's okay, but not how I imagined it. Or like, well, how come this person changes from here to here to here? And again, AI users will tell you, oh no, that doesn't happen anymore. They fixed it. You got to use this with this and this and these 17 freaking combinations of other platforms and software, and it still has the same stupid issues. But Alex realized the truth. It was robbing them of their imagination. It was placating the sense that, okay, I did create the thing, but they realized they didn't create the thing. Because one of the things that Alex and I talked about was that the biggest part of your imagination, in your creativity in general, y'all, it does not come from you having an idea. An idea is worthless. There are so many people with great ideas walking around the world. You might have a great idea too. If you're an AI bro that stumbled into this video and you're still hanging on by now, I mean, let me just tell you the honest truth. Your ideas have no value to them until you start to work for them. Your imagination and your creativity, they actually work together best when you're working on them, when you're laboring towards them. And that's where the real secret sauce comes into play, because if you talk to any artist that's been doing this a bit, they'll tell you this. There's a lot of decisions that were made, not at the outset of it, when the idea was fresh and new, but throughout the process, they came to the best versions of it. But AI users don't get that. They think that their initial idea is the bomb. The reality is that all first ideas are terrible. That's why concept artists don't just do one artwork and say, that's it. Because if so, we would have gotten some really horrifying versions of characters that you really know and love. But that's not the case. And then what Alex also started to notice was that they had a loss of ideas. They used to have a ton of them. Now they don't anymore. And then they just kept regurgitating the same ones, and they had less interaction, and they had less feedback, and they had less actual attention on everything that they were doing. Because again, they had no novel ideas left over. And what they had done, just to kind of put it out there for you, obviously, they killed their creativity. They killed their imagination. They thought that they could put it into a machine and it would give it right back times 2. And it didn't happen for them. And if you're thinking about using AI, it's definitely not going to happen for you either. Next, it was at this point that this dark hallway started to narrow. And it started to get real long and a lot more ominous. Because it was at this point that Alex was at a real low. And they started to realize that the more that they were using AI, the more worthless they felt. And that was because they inadvertently taught themselves that they were worthless. Every single time that they said, oh, well, I can't do that, let me just give it to AI, see what it can do, they realized they didn't actually do anything. They have no assumed ownership over anything that they want. And this was really tried. It was really hard for Alex to come to grips with this one. It was not easy. At one point, Alex felt like they could achieve anything in art. They had extreme enthusiasm for their artistry. They thought that they could create amazing things into the world. And I still believe that they could, by the way. But through using AI, they taught themselves how inferior they were. And it's what all AI companies thrive on, they profit from, even though, just to be honest, no AI company actually profits. That's all a lie too. But what they capitalize on is the fact that they want you to feel inferior. Inferior to the quality, inferior to the product, inferior to the speed, inferior to the product or the output. And it's all a load of horse crap. And so Alex started to notice this festering wound in his creative soul. At first, they couldn't understand why they were feeling this way, why they felt less and less connected to every single thing, why everything was happening for them, why nobody respected them, why nobody was coming to them anymore, why they were blending in with the crowd, and why, most importantly, that they felt less compelled to art than they ever did, even though AI promises that it's going to make you more invested into it than you ever have been, which isn't working out for anybody either. And what they realized is that they had silenced their voice. They once upon a time had something interesting. They once upon a time had something, as we took a look at their artwork, that was quite unique about it. They had an original way to tell a story, visually representing really cool scenes, really cool characters, and they had wonderful ideas. But they have snuffed that voice violently. And they weren't realizing anything that they wanted to do. They were just receiving the output of an amalgamation of what an algorithm determines to be the best plausible outcome. And that made Alex feel worthless. And the hard reality is that AI teaches you to do this. It capitalizes on that. It wants you to, because you become like a drug user. You become dependent on it. And so every single time that you hit enter on Midjourney to generate anything, or you use input output, or you use it as a reference, they became enveloped in this lie. And it's a lie because you are worthwhile. You have worth. Even if you're just beginning this is not a bad time to start as an artist. It's just a time to start. There have always been different difficulties that we've had to struggle with as artists. This is no different. This is a storm that will be weathered. And Alex thought that they could not weather it, that they had to give in, that they had to submit. And by surrendering to it, they also surrendered to a better version of themselves that they were afraid to step into. And they realized that this was all driven by fear, because no AI user who was an artist wants to use AI. In actuality, they've just been lied to like this and told that you have to do this or else you won't be of worth, which is ironic because they actually are teaching themselves to be worthless. Next, as Alex got better with AI too. And Alex learned many different things that they could do, many different types of models that they could use, many different sites that they could implement, how they could cross-germinate their skills from one to the other. And they started to do that because they started to notice that everybody was kind of calling them out online for it. Everybody was not having a conversation about art, but they noticed that they're having their conversation about AI. And so the next problem that Alex ran into here is that nobody was impressed with their art anymore. They were just impressed with the models. And this frustrated Alex because Alex really wanted people to latch onto their story, to their ideas, to their characters, to what they wanted to build with it. But what Alex started to notice was that that wasn't happening. Every single conversation shifted not from, hey, tell me about this. Wow, that character design is so cool. Oh, that illustration is great. And it shifted. What model are you using? Have you tried this and this? Did you do it through this and that? There was a dark, brooding issue that was starting to rear its ugly head. People were not asking because they were actually interested. What Alex picked up on as they started to get more and more DMs about everything that they were doing is that people just wanted to learn how to do what Alex could do, not because they actually cared, but because they wanted to do it too. And so what they started to notice is that less and less people actually cared about everything that Alex thought was a big deal. They thought that their ideas matter. They thought that AI would help to mend and bridge some skill gaps that they have. And we'll talk about that in a minute too, how that went. But they learned that the interest was inauthentic. It's this grifter, grifty mentality all the time. And this frustrated Alex because just like you, they had really big art dreams. They had big goals. And nobody was helping accomplish that. And nobody even gave a crap. And that was really sad for them. And that's just because the honest reality is that Alex learned this the hard way. All the credit went to the machine. Nobody was impressed with the labor put into it. And that's just honestly because people are not impressed with your product. They're impressed with the hidden labor behind the product. People are never going to be impressed with something that you did not do, that you outsourced. And the AI community thinks otherwise delusionally, but think about it in so many other contexts. When you see somebody do something outstanding and amazing, it's never just about the product. It is about what you specifically bring into that. And you might have forgotten about that. And that's what I want to help you out, especially as we traverse the rest of the harsh landscape of what Alex experiences came to be, because this is what you will experience too, my friend. And I don't want that to happen. Now, exacerbating everything there, they started to take a look then at their portfolio. And Alex was like, wow, look at all this big stuff. And they even tried to do some freelance gigs. They were trying to hustle. They were able to get some. But again, I mean, not much at all. We're talking like less than $100 worth of anything over a year. And they started to notice that, wow, why am I doing this? One thing that inevitably happens is that art will start to just become work. And if you're just trying to do this for a buck, here's my biggest warning for you. You will not sustain yourself, because if you're just in it for a quick buck, there's a lot of other ways, more efficient ways to make a lot more money faster. And AI image generation is not it. And neither is art, to be specific with you. So it was around this time that he started to notice that he was extremely disconnected with everything that he was making. Everything was just an output. Everything devolved into a product. And so what AI image generation users don't understand is that art is not a product. It never has been, and it never will be. Can it be used towards the end of a product? Absolutely it can. I personally do a lot of book cover designs, okay? That is towards a product. Caveat though, the artwork is part of the process for my author. It's also part of my personal process for how I'm growing myself and things that I am interested in. There's more to it than just a few bucks. It's all about what you are passionate about. It's about art being a product of your humanity. It's an artifact of your lived experience. And if you're only in art just to make money, my friend, you, as Alex learned, you are not going to care enough to actually want to persist in it. It became boring for Alex. It became drudgery. He started to avoid it. He started to distract himself with it too. And so this is when Alex realized, this is just soulless. Why are they doing this? They could just get a job. They could just do better at their own job and make more money doing it. And again, it kind of ties himself into the lies that they were fed about, oh, there's so much money to be made by AI. But there wasn't, because now there's a billion other people trying to make cheap products. And none of them are winning, because people have been misled into this belief that the output matters more than the input. And that's not true. Because what people actually value is not always how fast it can be delivered. People value the input into it towards the output, not just one. But Alex didn't want to believe that. And that's what turned out to be the case. Now, it was around this time too that Alex started to have this resurgence of an original will, and something that they had to summon up from themselves from a long time ago. Things that they want to do, and they had amazing art dreams. But one thing I need to let you know about Alex is that Alex is not a person, or I should say persons. Alex is actually an amalgamation. And it's an amalgamation of all of the collective stories that I've been told from firsthand users who have come off of using AI. And Alex is an acronym I created for all lame excuses. And that's not to deceive you. It's not to misrepresent the story. But it's because I wanted to present this to you in a way that would help you humanize this experience, because this will be your experience too, my friend. And this is the best way that I wanted to go ahead and do it, because I understand why you want to use AI, because you think that it's going to help you accomplish your dreams. And right now you might be feeling like, Sean, I don't even have any dreams anymore because AI slaughtered them. And my friend, I just want to let you know that's not true. And that's why I made the story for you today, because it authentically weaves together everybody's experience that I've ever spoken to on the matter, like hundreds of people. And if you're feeling like AI has stolen your dreams, just go ahead and check out this video right here. It's going to help mend all of those broken parts that you feel in you right now. Thanks so much for watching this. If it helped you, share with someone that you know. See you next time.